And greetings and welcome again to another episode of Real Football Vibes, keeping it real on the beautiful game here in Guyana. The emphasis is being on our Golden Jaguars football team in Miami at the moment, in Florida, Fort Lauderdale to be precise, where the CONCACAF Gold Cup preliminaries continue this evening with Haiti demolishing St. Vincent and the Grenadines by a 6-1 margin. So Haiti, they have advanced to the second eliminating game, and that will be played next week. So St. Vincent, they're out. And just a few minutes ago, the game that kicked off, Barbados against Bermuda, and within 17 seconds of the game, yes, you heard right, within 17 seconds of the game, Bermuda are up 1-0 against Barbados. And of course, later on tonight, Trinidad and Tobago will confront Montserrat. Trinidad and Tobago under the guidance of former national player Angus Eve, who has replaced the fired Terry Fenwick. And of greater interest, I would want to believe, is what's happening in Europe. And today we had another pair of mouth-watering matches again. Spain overcoming a very determined Switzerland. You would recall Switzerland disposed of France last week on their way to the quarterfinals. But today, their fairy tale run came to a halt as Spain defeated them in a penalty shootout by 3 goals to 1 after the game was tied 1-1 after 120 minutes of football. So it was a close encounter. Spain will certainly have to improve on their defense if they can go all the way. And of course, the game that was of greatest interest to most followers of Euros, because there was a favorite on this afternoon. I like to refer to them as the international chokers. They have been there about in the top three over the last 5, 7 years or even longer. Belgium has been one of the top teams in the world under the FIFA ranking, and much was expected of them again. And once again, they proved to be the supreme international choker, going under to a well organized Italian side, going on the 2-1, a game that the Italians were assertive from the very first whistle, and they kept up that pressure throughout. Had an early goal disallowed, but eventually they got two legal goals, and the Belgium team were able to pull back one in the last half, and it gave a ray of hope to Belgium and their followers, no doubt, that maybe this can be another extra time. It was not to be. The Italians never encouraged that. And so, the quality play is, and not the great player that some people might want to refer to him as, Romelu Lukaku, failed to deliver. And the Hazard brothers have so much talked about, and De Bruyne and the entire cast failed yet again to deliver. You might want to know why I'm lamenting this, because um, I predicted it. I share those sentiments early today. and my predictions came true. So I have every reason to be smiling here tonight because I did predict that Spain and Italy will come out of that half. And in fact, I have Italy in the final, and in the other half of the draw, tomorrow, Denmark will confront Czech Republic at noon, with the winner coming up against the other match, which kicks off at 3, and England, who are now the form favorites, they will be taking on Ukraine surprise package in the quarterfinal. That should be an interesting game in Rome, Italy. And of course, the semi-finals and finals will be played at Wembley. So England will have that home court advantage, so to speak. But I would love to hear from you, the viewers, your thoughts, and even some of your predictions going into the last four, who you have for this, and real football vibes. If there's anyone that could come up with a right prediction, a right score, a prize will be given out. We have some real football vibes t-shirts coming out. So that I can assure you of, a real football vibes t-shirt will be handed out to you. We expect to get some books as well on the first black international footballer. And of course, you know, he's British Guyanese by birth. Yeah, that's our proud history that we can hold on to. And the rest of the world will envy us for, because there could only be one first international football superstar and administrator, and that happens to be Andrew Watson, whose father was a Scottish plantation owner, Peter Miller Watson, and his mother, the daughter of a freed slave, Hannah Rose, and together the union birthed a daughter and a son who migrated to Scotland. And we know the history of Andrew Watson. In fact, he holds the distinction of being the captain that led Scotland against England on the 12th of March, 1881, at the Oval in England, when Scotland trashed England 6-1. To date, it remains the largest defeat suffered at home by the English. So we have a proud record there that we should hold on to. So that book there by Dr. Talbot, once the book comes in time, that along with a T-shirt will be given to the fan follower of Real Football Vibes who can predict the outcome of the final in the Euros. And remember, we are just reached the semi-final stage in one half. Tomorrow the other semi-final will be determined. So you have an opportunity to send in your predictions to Real Football Vibes, and those predictions will close at the end of the semi-final. So tomorrow, at the completion of the semi-final, no, in fact, tomorrow will determine who are the semi-finals. So at the completion of the two semi-final matches, that's when um, the predictions will close. So you have an opportunity to be part of Real Football Vibes, and the opportunity here is to send to Real Football Vibes your prediction on the outcome of Euros 2020. Yes, Euros 2020 is being played in 2021, and the reason for that we all know of the global pandemic, to be to use the Health Organization's precise word. I love to say it's a pandemic. Don't follow me. Don't tell him I say so. Yes, and moving on with Real Football Vibes tonight. Again, encouraging you and, asking you to be part. Your questions. Guyana play tomorrow night. Important game against Guatemala team. Bubbling with confidence, rearing to go, and well prepared, well oiled. Weather Guyana has got it right. They had two practice matches against some club teams down there in the Fort Lauderdale area, and they were successful in both games. So a little match readiness and preparedness for the team. And the reports coming out of Fort Lauderdale is that the spirits are high and the players are bubbling with confidence, and they are showing Guyanese back home that they have what it takes to get past Guatemala. Only time will tell. Important game tomorrow, and Guyana will be looking to get past Guatemala to have a chance to reach the Gold Cup finals proper, which kicks off on the 10th of July. Should they get past the Guatemalans tomorrow, then they will have to meet the winner of Guadeloupe versus Bahamas. That game is slated for tomorrow 4:30, and after that too, there's another game. I think it's Cuba should be playing against French Guiana. So the Gold Cup actually has started and in motion. Barbados trailing 1-0 a few minutes ago, just before the program started against Bermuda. And later on tonight, of course, it's going to be, well, in fact, the score is now 2-0. So Barbados will have an uphill task overcoming Bermuda. Bermuda, of course, were part of the last Gold Cup and really uh, gave a creditable performance. So no doubt they have some um, experience behind them. Barbados for the very first time reaching this far, and those early goals could really set them back. Also on today, another exciting match down in Brazil. Paraguay against Peru. Paraguay led 1-0. Peru came from behind, and Peru were leading. The game ended 3-all after extra time, and then in the penalty shootout, Peru prevailed, and so Peru are into the semifinals of the Copa Americas being played in Brazil. And at the moment, Brazil are playing Chile, and the winner of Brazil Chile will confront Peru in one semifinal. Tomorrow, of course, Uruguay will play against the Uruguay will play against Colombia, and then Argentina against Ecuador to complete the quarterfinal matches in the Copa America. But of greatest interest to us here in Guyana, no doubt, is the key game tomorrow against Guatemala, a team we have never beaten at the senior men's level. The Golden Jags, the Lady Jags, have distinguished themselves, beating their Guatemalan counterparts in 2016. It was at the Olympic qualifiers, so that's Olympic qualifiers in Houston, Texas. And so, despite Guyana's limited or no success against Guatemala, and the fact that we had a dismal run in the just concluded World Cup qualifiers, the real true hard die-hard fan is not so optimistic like the management, coaching staff, and the federation, although lamenting the fact that the team is in transition and it's rebuilding. In all my years, this is the first time I know you experiment at international competitions with a team in transition. And of course, we know the result. It's one of the poorest performances Guyana would have had at World Cup football. It's solo here tonight for me, all alone. It's Bermuda still up 2-0, 21 minutes gone. So Bermuda really surprising the Bajans, who were confident going into this game that they could actually pull one off. It's not to be, because the uh, Bermudans have taken a commanding 2-0 lead very early in the game. Whether Barbados can rebound from this, that will be left to be seen. But it's a great uphill task for them. listening out for your views, your comments. You can make your comments by sending it to Real Football Vibes here live, and those of you who are tuned into it on Facebook and, of course, YouTube. We're coming to you live with another episode of Real Football Vibes, where we focus on the beautiful game here in Guyana in particular. And of course, the region is of great interest to us as well. And no doubt, the beautiful game has a special place in the hearts of many Guyanese, whether it's the English Premier League, the Spanish League, the Bundesliga, or the Italian Serie A. Guyanese football fans have always followed the sport with a passion, despite our limitations here as a nation in terms of providing for the nation these tournaments. It is imperative that the federation, which in the past has boasted of a mutual understanding of agreement with the National Communications Network, lo and behold, very little or no football of the international standard is being fed to the nation. And that certainly is an indictment on the federation. They should ensure that this nation gets to see top quality football. It helps and it will help in the development of the sport in terms of the players being exposed to quality football where they can learn from that. And so the National Communications Network and the Football Federation must understand the importance of providing such tournaments for the benefit of footballers. You wouldn't have Trinidad playing in a World Cup qualifier or any game and it's not being fed to the nation. But it seems as though the people who have the privilege to sit in the boxes and watch these games live are least concerned about the rest of the nation seeing and supporting the team. This will be a positive indication that you truly want the nation to support the team. That wherever the games are being played, it can be shown, and most football matches, even practice games, are being streamed live. Technology has gone way ahead, whereby we can say, well, it's not being carried live by a channel. All matches are being streamed live. So bringing it and feeding it to us as a nation is not a problem. But for those of you who are logged on to the Facebook, thanks to CONCACAF, it's being fed there. And this is how simplified it is. We can also, through the Federation and CONCACAF, have that hookup. What the cost may be, I don't know. But this nation can see it. Not everybody is hooked up into the cyber world or have a Facebook account to see it. And it's incumbent on the Federation to ensure that this nation supports the national football team holistically. And part of that is being kept abreast with what's going on live in this modern age of technology. So, Football Federation, I'm appealing to you in future on behalf of the people, the masses, that you make the arrangement to ensure that the nation gets to support the team and follow the team. It can be an impetus to the players, a motivation to the players to know, well, hey, our people back home are watching. So we have got to give of our best. As simple as it sounds, it might be an element that could add to the team's success. So again, I could only appeal on behalf of the people. I'm always getting calls um, or messages. How can I get to see the game? What's the link to the game? And more than often, it's on Facebook streaming live, which, gives credence to the fact that if these people who are within the PR administration of the Football Federation understands the business of football, then they would make the necessary arrangement to ensure that the nation gets to see the national team performing. So again, it's not an accusation or an allegation, it's an observation that I hope you take constructively together with NCN, because NCN has a sports department, and how efficient it is reflective in what's being fed, because so much is happening. Euros, I mean, if we're talking about developmental football, we cannot have international football like Euros, Copa America, the English Premier League being played, and there's no room for it. But we're seeing things like American culture talk shows being fed on the TV. What message are you sending? We as a nation can only compete with the other great football nations if we are involved with the sport holistically as a nation and not separately. And where the federation thinks they have all the answers. And some people might say the operators do it. It's a big boys club. No, this is public. They're answerable to the public. And there are ways and means of getting answers and demanding transparency and some degree of integrity. Because within the structure of the football, there is something called the ethics committee. And if by chance you, the ordinary man, you don't have to be associated with the club, but you consider yourself a stakeholder in Ghana's football as a fan, and you observe something unethical, you can take it to the ethics committee, and they will have to address it. You don't have to go through the federation. The ethics committee, and if you don't get satisfaction there, then you go to CONCACAF. So the whole structure of the football provides for the federation to have inclusivity of every stakeholder. And one of the inclusivity of the stakeholders is to provide, simply providing these matches that Ghana are being played, that the nation can have a view of our team performing. It happens in the other countries, simple Antigua, Grenada, Montserrat, these little, as we call them, I hate to repeat what some people refer to them. I would say just say islands. I wouldn't use the term like people like to say. But I've experienced living in those islands, and they're way ahead. They are way ahead. We are behind time. And the time has come whereby we as a nation must get more proactive and involved and make demands of the federation where our football is concerned. We're going to take a little break. I'm not tired of speaking, but I want to share with you a little video that was provided by Coach Coyote McKinnon, who was a member of Ghana's successful team in the early millennium, where they would have played unbeaten in the Shell Caribbean Cup, going into the Digicel Cup, sorry. Shell Caribbean Cup predates that, in the 2007 tournament, when they, including Suriname, or Nemesis, they got 5, and everybody were getting big numbers. Coyote McKinnon was a key midfielder in that particular setup. And of course, Trinidadian Jamal Shabazz was the man in charge. I'm seeing and I'm reading other people taking credits. It was their team, but they were just assistant to the man in charge, the man who was directing the show and preparing and planning tactically. That's Jamal Shabazz. So other people who want to take credit as they were responsible, farthest from the truth. So we're going to listen and watch this little video with Coyote McKinnon, little coaching tips, and we hope to include that on the program as Real Football Vibes continue to develop and grow as a football program, providing a platform for stakeholders to share their views and suggest to the Federation. Let's have a look, a view.
Because of the 11 approach, our first thing is, how can we create a numerical advantage? What is the correct position to be in to give effective support to the ball. So if the defender's approach is so straight, then the defender is saying, I can play here or I can play here. But if I'm in possession, I'm looking at the numbers. Where can I find a numerical advantage? So the positional play of number 2 determines how easy we can get out of the back. So if he takes this supporting angle, the ball is now playing away from the defender.
Yes, that's Coach Coyote McKinnon sharing some footballing tips, and we'll have more of that for you in the subsequent programs. Brazil nil, Chile nil, 32 minutes gone in that game, and that game certainly will develop and pick up in the second half. Real football vibes, keeping it real on a beautiful game, and looking out to hear your views. I know most of you might be glued to the TV following some football, your phone or laptop, whatever it is in the cyber world, because these matches are coming, like I said, being streamed live by CONCACAF via Facebook, and Barbados trailing Bermuda 0-2, and tomorrow Guyana will confront Guatemala at 9:30. So Real Football Vibes will be putting together a preview before the game, and we'll have a halftime um, evaluation and also a post-game um, analysis of what um, took place there. And we should be joining with a fellow colleague who is there covering the game. Was hopeful of going, but circumstances did not allow for me to go, and maybe, maybe not. Who knows? I shouldn't be there. I'm here. That's what has been determined. And with you, my company, talking about the beautiful game. And looking forward to hear your thoughts, views on Guyana's game tomorrow. Can Guyana overcome Guatemala, who they've never beaten? Guatemala, in recent times, would have played unbeaten in the World Cup qualifier, not conceding a goal, scoring 14 goals in the process, but eliminated still because Curacao, who they drew with, the only game they drew 0-0, had a goal more than them. They had the same goal difference, 14, but Bermuda scored 15, not Bermuda, sorry, Curacao scored 15, conceded 1. Unlike Guatemala, they scored 14, conceded none. So Curacao advanced because of the fact they scored an extra goal. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who suffered a 6-1 defeat this afternoon to Haiti, were at the wrong end when they confronted Guatemala. They were battered 10-0. So you're talking about 16 goals St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have conceded in two games. That is not a nice situation. I know, for the football loving fans of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Um, in the 70s, St. Vincent and the Grenadines were among the top 3 nations in the region. You know, they were really up there and producing quality players. And it's surprising that they're taking big numbers at this stage. So it leaves one to ask the question, has the football degenerated there? What's happening with St. Vincent and the Grenadines football? Perhaps the next program, I'll get a link there out of St. Vincent and find out what's going on there. We know St. Lucia, surprisingly and untimely, pulled out of the World Cup qualifiers. Unknowingly to the players, the nation was shocked to learn that St. Lucia were withdrawing from the World Cup football competition. We haven't heard from FIFA on that situation, but of course, we know FIFA would be taking some action. Non-participation in FIFA tournaments, with FIFA spending and giving money for the football. You have to answer questions as to why, and there better be good reasons for not attending, because I can tell you, FIFA would slap those fines, or I should say, exorbitant fines on the federation that could even, put a dent in projects when those fines are instituted. So we'll get to that as well. We look at the matches being played, of course, tonight. Montserrat will be up against Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad as well had a dismal run in the World Cup, and displacing the English-born Fenwick, who was the coach, and replacing him with former national striker Angus Eve. So Eve, um, the caretaker coach for now, will be looking to take the Trinidad Soca Warriors to the Gold Cup, and it starts tonight against Montserrat. Montserrat, despite their limited population on the island due to the what's it called again now? That's leaving me, the volcano. Due to volcanic eruptions in Montserrat, most of the residents would have fled the island. That was in the 90s. Most of them were granted British citizenship, Montserrat being a colony of Britain still. And I know of so many persons who were not Montserratians by birth, but lived there on the island when it was ravaged, and they got a free ticket to England and still there now. So, how has Montserrat, with such limited population, one would think, has become not really a powerhouse in Caribbean football, but has improved by leaps and bounds? Don't be surprised if they create an upset tonight against a Trinidad and Tobago team really going through a lot off the pitch and on the pitch. What has happened, like most Caribbean countries are doing now, Montserrat, because it's a colony, have been able to create a team with British nationals who have had exposure at professional football, semi professional football, organized football. So they've been able to put together a team that could compete. Curacao, they're feeding off of players who would have played in the Dutch league that have ancestry from Curacao. Suriname, likewise, have finally adopted that way too. They would have refused to play players who are even born Surinamese but migrated to Holland. They their thing was, we are playing with locals and locals alone. And the Suriname, through the 70s and the 80s, and continuously, they have had a talent drain where football is concerned. And despite the mass migration of talents, they were still producing quality players. I remember in the late 60s, 70s, Suriname being referred to as the Brazilians of the Caribbean, and Jamaica, Antigua, Guyana, wherever they went, they entertained because they played that typical style of Dutch football, total football, which is purely entertaining for the eyes. And that some way got lost through the passage of time in history, whereby football did not have the impact that it had in Suriname. And as we are on Suriname, let me share with you a very important date that's coming up in another 2 days. While America and Americans will hold on to 4th of July as a celebration for Independence Day, we as Guyanese will forever hold on, and those who have the sport at heart and who've been following the sport and understand what it means will always hold the 4th of July special to our heart because it was on the 4th of July 1976 Guyana made its debut in World Cup qualification. Despite being the oldest federation in the region, being established 2 years before FIFA was birthed, Guyana never entered World Cup football until 76, which was the preliminaries for the 70th World Cup in Argentina. And what a successful debut it was. For those who were there, including myself as a young 14-year-old, I left my home almost about midday. The type of weather we are experiencing in Guyana now, this persistent heavy rain, was precisely the same weather we had leading up to that game 45 years ago. Conditions were soggy. It was a border sward that was muddy, but our players were ready. They were well prepared, and I still hold the view strongly in my time around Guyana's football that that remains to me the best prepared team and the most talented team that would have ever been assembled in Guyana. And come 4th of July, it was a Sunday, 1976, GCC ground rammed to capacity, and among the thousands there watching the game, the late Lyndon Forbes Sanson Burnham, the Prime Minister of Guyana, and his wife. And we were not disappointed. Guyana struck in the midway in the game in the opening half. Vibert Dirty Butts producing our opening goal. Then his club mate Keith Niles added another. And at the end of it, the spectators forgot about the muddied field and we all scaled the fence. Yes, including me. I was in the schoolboy stand, but I quickly reached in front of the GCC pavilion and was enjoying all the merriment that included the Prime Minister dancing to the Guyana national team tune. I think it was Run Them Down, Guyana Run Them Down, Run Them Down, Guyana Run Them Down. And it was a joyous occasion. In the return game, all our hopes were dashed. We all know the history with that. However, whatever caused that outcome, the Dutch went home, they did their homework, and they were prepared to battle and move on to the next round and to shock Guyana. As the team arrived, the Guyanese arrived in Suriname for that return game, they were greeted by the mantra. Yes, the entire nation, and that's why it comes back to what I was saying earlier, how important to have the nation involved to have success at international football. Everywhere the players went, and from the time they arrived in Suriname, they were greeted with the mantra, we knock them back, we knock them three. We knock them back, we knock them three. Meaning, we beat them three, we beat them back. And that was all was penetrating the minds of the Guyanese footballer and the Guyanese who went there in their hundreds to support the team. Of course, there were many ploys off the pitch to psychologically affect the team. And the fact that our players were so limited with exposure, the occasion was not one that they were prepared for. And I think that was the first time Guyanese footballer could say they understood the psychological component of playing at the international level, how important that was, keeping your composure and being able to handle whatever psychological warfare you would encounter. Krasnopolski, the hotel that the team was staying in, for whatever reasons, the elevator stopped working. The guy and his team were way up at the top. So you understand, to get down to come for meals, it's climbing the steps. So all these things played, a part and, psychologically affecting the team. The team was changed up for whatever reason. And reports from some of the players, the Scottish coach who had joined the team disappeared after the match. Where he went, how he left, what happened, it's anybody's guess. We have never heard again of uh, the Scottish coach, Peter McSkeveny, again. Thankful he was able to come before the team, go to play the first game, to do the final touches. But the team was prepared by George Green, the head coach. But I think the important man there in the preparation with the Guyana National 76 World Cup team would be Cornell Millington, the ex-soldier, paratrooper, football coach, you name it. Cornell Millington was the man responsible for physically preparing the players. And you might be surprised to hear some of the stories when they went to Kimbia, a paramilitary base, to start preparing. Some of the things they encountered, players were even questioning whether it's football they were being prepared for or war. In the end, most of them in hindsight said it played a part in preparing them and making them confident because the emphasis was on discipline and getting physically fit. And so Cornell Millington must be complimented for a job well done. And this we're talking about in the 70s, 1976 to be precise. Sunday, July the 4th coming will make 45 years. And I'm hopeful of having most of the players hooked up on real football vibes. So mark it down, share the word. We should kick it off at 9:30 and perhaps go until lunchtime with past players of that particular 1976 World Cup team. Two of the members of the starting 11 no longer with us. Gregory P.T. Stewart, also go by the name Gregory Thorne, the left full back, and the right full back, the Caribbean Fox, Clive Breezened, who I had the privilege and honor of playing with and against. They have departed. Breezened, of course, we know, and he might be the happiest man. He loved football so much. He eventually kicked his last ball on a pitch. Then he died. Yes, he died in Brooklyn, 1999. Clive Breezened, former Santos, outstanding wingback. So the two wingbacks, fullbacks from that 76 World Cup team, no longer with us, but we'll try to get the rest of that starting 11 that included, I think it was six Pili football players, and about five of the players were youth nationals. I haven't seen a composition of any national team with so many teenagers in it. And that's why I lament the fact that the 1976 World Cup team is perhaps Guyana's most talented team ever assembled and best prepared team. We had in the front line, the two flankers, left side, Keith Weiler-Niles, and on the right side it was Terry Suzuki Nichols, both youth nationals, Vibert Butts, and Rudolph Chow Hunt, who I played with at GFC, were the strikers. Doherty was um, celebrating his mother's birthday, and he had promised his mother he would score. He did score. And his 19th birthday was coming up 2 days after. So Those were some of the youth players in midfield. There was, of course, the captain of the Guyana national team in the first World Cup. For those of you who might not know, hails from Essequibo. So Essequibo was represented, Barbies as well, because the national goalkeeper at that time, another youth player, Wendell Figaro Sandiford, was born in Barbies. So he was a Barbician in the team. Um, Other members of the team included in the central defense, it was Orlon O'Neill, who's still with us, and Wolford, David Wolford, British, who resides in New York now. Morrison Moore, the captain in midfield, with Keith Michael Lane, another PD player. And like I mentioned, it was a 4-2-4 we had employed. Walter Yam Prince would have replaced Butts at the halftime through whatever injury knock Butts would have picked up. And Labo Barton replaced Michael Lane, Keith Michael Lane. Those were the two substitutions made on that day. But we're going to share more of that with you on Sunday. Like I said, we're going to be looking at having a special program dedicated to these past national outstanding players who would have donned the colors on that historic day, Sunday, July 4th, 1976, at GCC ground border when Guyana overcame Suriname, something that they had not done in 20 years prior to that game. Guyana and Suriname could be considered the oldest football rivalry in the Caribbean. It started way back in 1915 in Suriname on the 17th of August, Marcus Garvey's birthday, and Guyana won 6-1. But since that time to now, Suriname have had the better of us in terms of more wins as against what we would have done. Rich history. And so Sunday, we hope to have these past players sharing with us and recapping that eventful day and what led to them producing such a performance leading up to that game. So share the word, make it be known that Real Football Vibes will be keeping it real on the beautiful game when Sunday we recapture that momentous day, 4th of July, 1976, when Guyana made its World Cup debut and defeated Suriname at GCC ground border. Presently, or currently, we look forward to Guyana playing tomorrow night against Guatemala with a chance of advancing to this year's Gold Cup. Of course, there's another eliminator game before they would get into the group stage proper, and that is, should they beat Guatemala tomorrow night, they will then have to meet the winner of the Guadeloupe versus the Bahamas. And so the winner of that game then will advance automatically into the group stage of Gold Cup 2021, which will kick off on the 10th of July. 10th of July, that rings a bell. That date there should be the birth anniversary of one of Guyana's outstanding footballers of the 90s, I would want to think. And I speak of Anthony Stanton, also referred to as Lambada, as he went and he created so many waves in Barbados, playing with the Barbados professional outfit Lambada, that they crowned him the Lambada boss. So Anthony Stanton, who still runs the ball and was with us last Sunday in Linden, will be celebrating his birthday in the 10th. Like I said, that's the date the Gold Cup will kick off. and Guyana looking to get into that. So we'll have a preview of that game tomorrow night. The game is 9:30. So tomorrow night we'll be hooking up at 8 and we'll be having a panel of experts who have played it. We're looking at the game, the strengths, weaknesses, and what Guyana will have to do should they be seriously looking to contend. What will be needed for them to overcome a Guatemalan side that has been playing continuously at the international level. Perhaps they would have had over a dozen games since this fixture was made known that Guyana will be playing Guatemala. Recently, I think it was last week, they played a game against El Salvador and that game drew. So they're getting their players match ready, unlike our federation not getting our players match ready. They're working with drills and encampment, and come match time, we hope for the best. And that has always been the biggest problem, in my honest, humble opinion, where Guyana's football is concerned. The preparation or lack thereof always comes back to hurt us. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. That adage I have used endlessly in writings and conversations where sports are concerned. And are they ready? Are they prepared for Guatemala tomorrow after the dismal run in the World Cup qualifies and the management and coaching staff are still preaching that they're rebuilding, the team is in transition? A rock solid defense, I would want to think, in the event that the results do not favor us. You would always hear, well, we told you we're in transition and we're rebuilding. Who rebuilds an experiment at international tournaments? It's not done. It's not done. That's unheard of in football. It's like a backward step. But we haven't got much control over it. We are not the authorities. We can talk, we can give our views, and, you know, we can share our ideas. But at the end of the day, the responsibility of preparing the teams and getting them out there ultimately rests on the shoulders of the Guyana Football Federation, and they have been on the receiving end from fans with this performance. And we know in the real football world, they would not have been spared. There would have been continuous media coverage, whether you want to say it's adverse or constructive. But pieces or articles that obviously will be showing concern for the state of the national team and calling for changes. That's how the sport is. You do not deliver as a coach or as a team, you're fired once you're hired. But for some strange reason, Ghana seems to be the place, that you don't have success and you still hold your job. I've heard on the ground questions about the current technical director who's been here for close to 6 years now. His impact. What has he impacted upon Ghana's football? Here it is. We're told a qualified coach coming out of England with these links. And for those years, not one youth team from England has visited. Not one player, youth player with talent, has had the opportunity to even go and experience a summer camp or a week or something. No. I am at a loss where that is concerned. I would want to think that as the technical director of a nation, your work is more than you can manage. And when it comes to football, you will be clearly in the eyes. But apparently, it's different. He probably sits in his office and send out the orders or direct what should be done. Football is played on the pitch. Football is not coaching from a room or a laptop, like, no. It's a practical world and game whereby you have to be on the ground. I recall Rene Simoes after taking up his contract in Jamaica. In his free time, when he was not with the national team, he would get into his car and he would drive around Jamaica looking for talent that are not involved in national programs. Did he find? Yes. For those of you who remember Jermaine Hugh, spelled Hue, when he was called into the national team, and obviously no club, the pundits around football in Jamaica, who's Jermaine Hugh? So the big caption in the paper was Jermaine Hugh, question mark. Who's this guy? But he was found playing what we call roadside football, and he impressed Coach Rene Simoes, and he invited him to the national team, and the rest is history. Jermaine Hugh went on to be a national representative, and he played professionally in America. Had it not been for Simoes going around and looking talent, he would have never done the colors. And there are many latent talents of that nature in this country. There are many areas that are not being tapped into where talent abounds. Guyana is 83,000 square miles. And I guarantee you, in every region, football is being played. It's a people's game. Most played game, most followed game. And Guyana is no exception. But those talents are not being tapped into. I could recall in the times gone by, in the 70s playing, this was the feeling of the man in the Borby, South Essequibo, even Linden. They always say, Georgetown man think a Georgetown or Guyana. But Guyana big and we got enough talent. And it's true. It is so true that, Georgetown was always the live wire of football in this country. The best and longest running organized league would be the Demico League, organized and run by the Georgetown Football League, which was established in 1974. And they had a successful run with football in Georgetown. Yes, the crowds were massive. Sunday afternoons, it was not just a football match, it was a fashion show. Yes, both men and women alike were out in their best. There was competition. Whether you're playing or not, you had on your best. And of course, there was no television, and that was the ideal entertainment come Sunday afternoon. And GFC was rammed. There were a few stands. One stand that is often talked about, up to a day like today, the infamous ungrateful stand. That's the stand could just don't praise you for scoring a goal, and you make one silly mistake, that stand will call for your substitution. I remember Vibez Butts playing at the national youth level, where Guyana were playing Suriname, and for some reason, Dory wasn't getting it right, and the crowd was heckling and calling on the coach to take off. Hey, Maling, will you get a man from take you off? The man, he left for me right foot that. And within minutes, Vibez Dirty Butts brought joy to the entire GFC. And those said fans, the ungrateful stand, because he rifled a cannon-like shot at that North Road, at that Regent Street end, to give Guyana victory against Suriname. And so the Georgetown Football Club, the headquarters for football in Guyana, one could say, has got some memories that you would be amazed to hear some of the stories when, you know, we find ourselves in groups and we recall moments of football. It was in the Ungrateful Stand, a very popular supporter of football at that time. Coldwater, I think was his name. And Peely against GFC. Basil Win, the skillful South African, always look aggressive, look like a Brazilian. You know, his football was neat and he was shaping up to do demonstrate one of his technical skills, which is controlling the ball on his chest. And Basil shaped up to control on his chest. And a clean shaven haired Gordon Braffett got in front of him and headed it out powerfully. And in an instant, Coldwater said, "That is the ultimate warrior." And that name stuck until a day like today with Gordon Braffett. And there are many other stories I could share with you with the ungrateful stand in football at GFC. We had a very, very popular poolside stand that some afternoons you're in the main pavilion and you're wondering if the clouds have lowered from the skies. Yeah, it was all clouds over the poolside. Then there was the stand at the North Road end, which was well entertained by Star, the infamous tailor from the Republican, well dressed. Like I told you, it was a fashion show Sunday afternoon, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful football, entertaining. In particular, when according to the late B.L. Crombie, he would say the South Georgetown Ball Weavers, that is Santos versus Pili. Expect a big crowd. Expect quality football. Not the Brazilian type, but near to that, because Pili had a chemistry of playing an entertaining brand of football. And Santos, out of which Pili came, were known for that quality football as well. And so that was one of the most looked forward to clashes, anticipated clashes. Pili versus Santos. And BL would say the South Georgetown Ball Weavers will clash again. And when you go there, you won't be disappointed. I can assure you. And there are many other stories, like I say, but join me on Sunday from 9:30 when I will be hooking up with most of the players, if not all, from that 1976 World Cup team. And we'll share with you, hoping you can be involved by sending your questions, suggestions, or even talking to the players, asking them questions on Real Football Vibes, where we keep it real on the beautiful game. I think I've been doing a lot for an hour solo. I can go on, yes. I enjoy it. This is my passion. So I hope I would have entertained you. I hope you would have enjoyed some what I shared with you. And of course, the action continues. Brazil against Chile at this moment as we speak. Montserrat against Trinidad coming up at 9:30. Barbados currently playing Bermuda. That's the CONCACAF Gold Cup qualifiers. And it continues tomorrow. Tomorrow we have the other two Euros quarterfinals. Denmark against Czech Republic at 12. Then England against Ukraine in the other encounter to determine who the matchup will be. Already, the matchup in the other half of the draw has been determined. Spain today getting past Switzerland in a penalty shootout, And the Italians taking care of the international chokers. Yes, that's what I call Belgium, international chokers. And that's what they've been doing for the longest while. And so all the hype and talk about Belgium taking it home. Sorry, Belgium fans. I told you before. I warned you. So Italy against Spain, my predictions have been true to form. Hopefully tomorrow, my take with Denmark taking care of Czech Republic and England taking care of Ukraine. Yeah, I'm not never been a fan of England, but we have to give credit where it's due. And England, they certainly have the talent. They have the advantage too of playing at home at Wembley, and they have players who are playing in the top league of international club football, which is the English Premier League. And the talented team that England has now, certain players can't even get some playing time, so that it's not an easy road, as Bojo would say. But every start must have an end, and so in the end, I see England versus Italy, and it can go either way. What I saw today in Italy, I might want to tip in favor of Italy, but I'll wait to see what takes place tomorrow with England. But as it is now, I think Italy should be the form favorite. I wouldn't be surprised if Spain can produce a performance. They have the quality players, but the defense seems lacking, seems a little porous. And the aggressiveness and the confidence in which the Azuri boys have been playing, that is why I give them the edge. And even against an England team there in England, I might want to tend to give them the edge. I think I'm getting a signal from my producer, Rashley, who I am forever grateful for. Pro Media, providing the technical operations, my technical producer, Rashley Jackson. No relationship to Michael Jackson, but like I said, all good things must come to an end. And so I'm being advised that my time is up. I've been speaking for much too long. I enjoyed it, and I hope you did. And I'll be looking forward to hear some of your questions as we bring to an end episode 4 of Real Football Vibes, keeping it real on the beautiful game. Until we meet again tomorrow night, 8 before Guyana play against the Guatemalan, where we have a preview. Your host, Ras Abdallah Tafarai Wadada, wishing you a pleasant Friday evening and looking forward to you joining me tomorrow night. And of course, that special program on Sunday where we celebrate 45 years of playing World Cup football. So long, everybody. Have a beautiful rest of the evening.